Okay, so this webinar is on the ZEB Pano, the latest accessory that we've released here at GeoSLAM. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Michael Dutch, Product Manager here at GeoSLAM. So if you even have any questions after this session is done, please feel free to drop me an email outside of it as well. So that would be michael.dutch@geoslam.com. Okay, so let's crack on with the webinar. So what we're going to cover today, it's not a very long session, so we've got plenty of time to answer questions at the end. But what we are going to cover is a very brief overview of the ZEB Pano, and then a little bit about using the system. So what makes the capture with the ZEB Pano different to normal Revo and Revo RT. And then a little bit about the processing, so it's a slightly different change to the processing step that you'd need for ZEB Pano. So we'll talk about that. It's not a huge change, but just so everyone's aware, the change that will be coming. And then the last option there is viewing and sharing the data. So after you've collected the data, you've got all that extra information, how do you really use it? And how do you get the most out of it? So there's lots of different ways that you can use it, both inside GeoSLAM software and outside GeoSLAM software. I'll talk about the results that we get after this process is complete. And then I'll also talk about how you can use it inside of GeoSLAM software. And then we'll talk about kind of who will use the system, or maybe why someone would use the system. So some of the big benefits of the Pano compared to not having that accessory. And then when we get to the end, we'll do a question and answer session and make sure we cover everything off. So please, if you do have any questions, fire them through in the questions box. And it'd be great to answer some of the queries. So a very quick overview. So the first statement there, capture and creating real estate and commercial property floor plans with informative, so extra information, 360 panoramic photography or images for enhanced property surveys. So this is where we've seen an initial pickup of the system. So real estate and commercial properties, whether it is somebody that wants to lease a floor space or buy a property. So essentially being able to get measurable information very quickly, but also be able to share that information out so that someone that maybe does not understand a point cloud can use the image data to really understand what's in the space and get a feeling for that, the area that's been captured. And then the next point there, the 3D measurable information that's captured with the Pano is positioned using world-leading SLAM algorithm that us here at GeoSLAM have. And that's kind of the big take-home message. You know, you could turn up to any site with a 360 camera and take images around that site. However, you either don't know the position of them images, or them images will be positioned quite poorly. Whereas when you're using the ZEB Pano, we're able to take the SLAM algorithm where we can work out our location and our trajectory to a very high accuracy, and using that high accuracy to then position the 360 panoramic images is what the big technical uplift of the ZEB Pano is. So really being able to position them images better than anybody else can, and quicker than most can. And then that last point there is about being able to use the ZEB Pano with the Revo RT and how that both streams of data are being captured. So you're walking around with the ZEB Revo RT, collecting all the points with the LiDAR sensor. So lots and lots of information that is measurable, but you're also collecting the high resolution photography all at the same time. And being able to capture both data sets at the same time means that you need to spend less time on site, and potentially less people need to be doing the collection of data. Okay, so then a little bit about capturing and actually using the system. So the first point here, data capture, stop and go. Stop and go is a term that you'll probably hear a few times when we're talking about the ZEB Pano, because that really illustrates the way we expect the data to be captured. So capturing and acquisition, you can see here, Neil, one of our chief engineers here at GeoSLAM with the system. So walking around and collecting the data. In terms of the ZEB Revo, in this case the ZEB Revo RT, the acquisition does not change a lot. So when you're moving from room to room, just make sure you spend that 2-3 seconds in the door frame so that you're capturing the first room and a bit of the second room. And apart from that, you can walk around at a normal walking pace in order to collect the floor plan information and from the point cloud. The big change that we see here with the ZEB Pano is this stop and go. So when you want to take a 360 image, we'd ask the person acquiring the data to stop, trigger the camera so that the image is taken, and then move on to keep collecting the data. And that that time that you'd spend stopping is maybe 3 to 5 seconds. And the reason that we do that is in order to deliver the highest quality image that we can, we need the user to be stationary. If you're taking the 360 images while in motion, you're going to end up with lots of image blur, and it'll be quite difficult to use the data and process the data. So when you're collecting the data, walk around, stop for 3 to 5 seconds, trigger the camera, and then move on and collect the data as you would normally, just stopping everywhere you need to take an image. So still, if you're looking for capturing a small home or a flat, you're only looking at about somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes max, 10 minutes at an absolute maximum to collect the entire structure. So still incredibly quickly, and we're not adding that much time with the Pano. Okay, so then using the system. So after you've walked around and collected all the data, how do you go about bringing it into the GeoSLAM software universe? And that is done through GeoSLAM HUB. So those of you who are customers already will probably know we released 5.2 of the software very recently. So this is the kind of view that you get in 5.2. Within the next few weeks, we're going to be releasing 5.2.1. And what we see here on the right is a data set has been processed. So you would walk around, collect the data, have a .GeoSLAM file, bring that .GeoSLAM file, drag and drop into GeoSLAM HUB, and then that will create a scan project, which is what we're seeing here in the image to the top right. Here you can export, so lots of different file formats, export as a .GeoSLAM file. You can also view the data in our new 3D viewer. You can open up GeoSLAM Draw, which I will talk about very shortly. But then there's also this ellipsis button where you get extra information about reprocessing and renaming the data sets. And soon we're going to have this ability to add Pano images. And essentially you just click Add Pano Images, navigate to a folder where all the images for this scan are taken, and then click Go. And then GeoSLAM HUB will automatically process the data. And by process the data, I mean generate information about the XYZ position of every single image, along with the rotational information for that image as well. And that's all going to exist in a single file, which will reference every other image by name. A very automatic process. All you would need to do as a user is find the files, and this would happen more or less automatically. Okay, so then using the system. So once the data set has been captured, it has now been processed in GeoSLAM HUB. You need to start thinking about how you're going to view, use, and share that data. So first thing I'd mention is we've taken the data set, the .GeoSLAM file, into GeoSLAM HUB. So all of the normal functions for a point cloud still exist when you have the Pano accessory attached. So what we can see here in the right image is the GeoSLAM HUB viewer, where we get the point cloud in full 3D, as well as the trajectory, and seeing where the scanner has moved through the environment during acquisition. And we can still do all the normal things that we would expect to. So you can still export this point cloud in lots of different file formats. You can also reprocess this point cloud as well. What I would say is if you want to reprocess the data set, do that first. So after your data set has been brought into GeoSLAM HUB, reprocess the data set if you need to, and then use that point cloud to add the Pano imagery. Don't do the add Pano imagery first and then reprocess. Otherwise you'll lose a lot of that information, and you'll also have different trajectory files which would end up getting quite confusing. So make sure you've got your point cloud where you want it to be, and then add the 360 imagery. Okay, so that is viewing it in GeoSLAM Hub. Those of you that attended our webinar just under 2 weeks ago on GeoSLAM Draw 5.2 will know that we also released a new version of GeoSLAM Draw, so GeoSLAM Draw version 3. And version 3 has lots of new functionality, as well as having different modules as well. So for all our solutions, so you would buy a solution, the ZEB Revo RT solution with the ZEB Pano accessory. That solution will come with GeoSLAM Hub as standard, as part of the package, and it will also come with GeoSLAM Draw Start as part of the package as well. And one of the great things about the latest release is that we can now have 360 imagery imported into GeoSLAM Draw. So this is what we're seeing on the image on the right. We've got the floor plan, which is a very normal view in GeoSLAM Draw. So it's a top-down view of the point cloud, and that's why we can see it starts to look like a floor plan very, very quickly. And we can also see these light blue dots in the point cloud as well, and these represent locations of the 360 imagery that was collected during the acquisition of this area and then processed in GeoSLAM Hub. So all this information exists here also in GeoSLAM Draw. I can then click on the image or click on the point, which is what this red image here is to the left, and the 360 image will open in the right hand side. So all of a sudden you're able to resolve any things in the point cloud that you might not have been able to see before. If there was maybe a large bookcase, sometimes in the point cloud you're not quite sure if this is part of the wall or if this is a different feature, but being able to click on the 360 image, see exactly what was in that room, allows that the person that is creating all the vector lines, that extra piece of information to really make sure that the line work is correct and he or she is making the correct lines over the correct features. So it's all this about this contextual image referencing and being able to resolve what is in the point cloud by having this extra piece of information, which is the 360 image. Okay, so then the next package, which is GeoSLAM Draw Plan. GeoSLAM Draw Plan is an upgrade to GeoSLAM Draw Start. So you would start with the Start package and you would upgrade to GeoSLAM Draw Plan. And Plan has a lot of tools focused on generating these 2D floor plans. It's got advanced sectioning tools as well as some advanced analytical tools. But one of the big things about GeoSLAM Draw Plan, it also has lots of functions for sharing out the information. So it's all great if you've got a GeoSLAM Hub license and you're able to work on it on your local machine, but you might want to share this information out with different people that may not have a license. So you may want to use GeoSLAM Draw Plan. And I'll give you a very quick demonstration. That is not a broken link, don't worry. So let me just navigate to a file here. Sorry, Windows File Explorer is playing up on me. Let me just close it. Maybe that'll do the job. Okay, that's annoying. A live demonstration and File Explorer doesn't work. How else can I get to this? Can I do it from Chrome? Nope, I need to do it from here. Okay, at the end of the session, we'll go back to GeoSLAM Draw Plan, and hopefully my File Explorer will have learned to behave itself, but we will get back to that. Actually, I will load one up and just leave it running. Oh, okay, maybe we're lucky. Maybe we're good to go. Great, I think it's worked. Okay, perfect. So I've just clicked the file here. Just pop that out. Yep. So I've clicked the file here, and now I'm opening the data up in Google Chrome. I'm not running, as you can see on the bottom of my screen, I'm not running GeoSLAM Hub, so I don't have a license for GeoSLAM Hub. Let me just see. Thanks for the advice, guys, on the File Explorer. So I've just pushed out this information using GeoSLAM Draw plan, selected the area that I'm interested in, and used the web export function. And what that gives me is a big old PDF with all this information in, but you can also open it up in a piece of software like Google Chrome, where we can see the floor plan on the left. I can take very quick measurements from it here. So if I go create a measurement, so I can do very quick area calculations. And again, bearing in mind, I don't have a license, but someone is able to get extra information about the space very quickly. So I'm getting an area calculation, also the path, so you can do a single point-to-point measurement as well. So if I cancel that, it looks a bit ugly. And also, we can see these green dots, which, as you might imagine, represent locations of the Pano imagery that we can see here at the bottom. So I can click on the Pano imagery and rotate that around as a bubble view and see all that extra information about what's in this area here. So again, if I'm someone that I was not on site, so I have no idea what the site looks like, if I'm even potentially someone that is interested in leasing this property, all of a sudden I can start to move around the property and get extra information about what is in this space, as well as being able to measure the information on the point cloud as well, without the need of a license. So this web export inside of GeoSLAM Draw plan is a really, really amazing function, and we're glad that we can put it in a package that should be accessible to most people. So I will jump back to the presentation. Okay, so then the next package I wanted to talk about was another upgrade. So from GeoSLAM Draw Start, you can upgrade direct to GeoSLAM Draw BIM. And what GeoSLAM Draw BIM allows you to do is it's essentially got an extra feature, which is a for Revit plugin. And for those of you that don't know, Autodesk Revit is a fairly industry standard piece of software for generating 3D models. What GeoSLAM Draw BIM allows you to do is have a direct link between these two pieces of software. So you can select an element, such as like a wall or a door, or maybe a banister. So you can see here a few different walls have been selected here. And so you select that element inside of Autodesk Revit, but you can take the measurements and the locations from GeoSLAM Draw BIM. So you can click on our point cloud on the left, and that measurement and that information gets automatically passed to Revit. So there's no need to bring a point cloud, which is quite clumsy, through into Autodesk Revit. You can do all your measurements of something that is very fast and simple and easy to use inside of GeoSLAM Draw. So a really great platform that we can now, again, all offer and get to more users. And the big uplift that we see here for GeoSLAM Draw, for the ZEB Pano, is because you're getting all that extra information about contextual image referencing. There's more information available to the person that is creating these 3D models. A lot of the time, the person that is creating this 3D model is not the person that acquired the data. More often than not, they're not in the same building or even not in the same country. So if you're able to have a small point cloud, the LAZ, and also a very small file size, which would be the 360 panos, send all that out to the person that is creating these 3D models. They can then use that extra information to really understand what is in the point cloud. So clicking on the 360 panos, looking at what's in the space and making sure that the 3D model is representative of what's really in that space. So there's no need to kind of have handover meetings for every single scan between the person that acquired the data and the person that is post-processing the data. The person that is working with towards the final deliverable has all the information available to them. So hopefully a much more seamless collaborative environment that lots of people can access. Okay, so then who is going to use the Pano? Or why would someone use the Pano? So just there on the right, a quick image of what the product actually looks like. So this is essentially the ZEB Revo RT solution, where we have the ZEB Revo on the left and the processing unit for the real-time system on the right. These are obviously connected by the ZEB main cable. And then there is a carbon fiber pole with the ZEB Pano camera mounted on the top. Obviously, the reason that the ZEB Pano is on that carbon fiber pole is because if it was a lower level, you would end up with lots of images of the person collecting the data in the final 360. So when you're stopping and collecting images, you do want to make sure that the ZEB Pano is above your head and not directly in front of your face. Otherwise, you might end up with some very funny images towards the end. So why would you really use the ZEB Pano? So being able to capture the floor plan information from the point cloud, the LiDAR measurable information with the high-res photography is all happening at the same time. So it means it's a single visit to a property, and it also means it all happens at the same time. So the person that is collecting photography doesn't have to turn up later on. It all happens at the same time within them few minutes that you're actually on site. So no need for separate teams or even for the same person doing the two different types of acquisitions, all seamless, all at the same time. So hopefully data capture can be more standardized and someone gets a true kind of size of the property from the point cloud, but also a much truer experience of what the place is like. So having that 360 imagery allows someone to really pan around and understand that space much better than before. That point there about the RICS guidelines. So this is a guideline that it's not new. It's for all our Revo systems, so Revo Standard and Revo RT. The 1:100 scale map size for level of detail is what we fit into for the RICS guidelines. The next 2 points, so kind of touched on already. No revisits because you've got all that information together in one place. If you don't really understand what's in the point cloud, you're able to resolve it by what's in the imagery. Okay, so that's the end for the webinar. So we'll go into the questions now. I will also point you guys in the direction of the Pano part of the website. So geoslam.com/zeb-pano. You'll be able to find more information on there as well, but I'm happy to answer some of the questions that came in on the session today. So we'll start off that now. Yep, so there's a question there about being able to do walkthroughs. So something that essentially looks a bit like Google Street View kind of thing, where you would click forward into the different Pano shots. And that is something that is not available right now in GeoSLAM Draw. However, that chunk of information is good to know. I also obviously can't confirm any timeframes of when something like that would be ready, but we'll definitely look at it as a possibility, and I understand the need and the fact that it would be a much nicer user experience to someone that is not familiar with point clouds at all, and is probably familiar with something like Google Maps. So being able to, I guess, present that data in that way is something that we will look at. Okay. There's a question there about being able to measure inside the picture. So no, that's not something sadly that's going to be available at the moment. So the ZEB Pano is all about contextual image referencing, really understanding what's in the space. It is not going to be about measuring the point cloud or indeed colorizing the point cloud. We just want it to be an image file that can be passed around, that allows shareability. So no, it's not possible to measure from the point cloud at the moment. There is also, during this presentation, I've only really spoken about the ZEB Revo and the ZEB Revo RT, because the whole system in terms of the ZEB Pano accessory is available for both of them systems right now. For Horizon, we do have an extra 1 to 2 week lead time on purchasing it for a Horizon system, but it will be available. So if you really need it for a Horizon system, do contact your local reseller, and we can get that sorted for you. It may just take a little bit longer. Okay, any more questions, guys? If not, that's totally okay. If you have any questions after the session that pops into your mind, do feel free to drop me an email. So that is michael.dutch@geoslam.com, and we can get back to you with answers to some of your questions. If you want anything else answered, especially if you want anything answered outside of my time zone, please do contact your local reseller as well. They have been updated about the ZEB Pano. They'll have all the information available to talk to you about the system. So the information's out there. If you've got any questions, please do ask, and we will help you out. But if there's no more questions for this session, then I'll call an end to it. So thank you everybody for your time, and I'm sure I will speak to you all very soon. Thank you.